The courtroom fell completely silent when the judge looked up from a thick sealed file and called my name. Every eye in the room turned toward me. My mother stopped breathing for a moment. My stepbrother looked confident right up until he saw the expression on the judge's face. The smile he had worn all morning disappeared instantly. For years, they had treated me like I was overly emotional, overly serious, and overly dramatic. They believed this hearing would end the same way every family argument always had, with excuses, denial, and everyone pretending nothing had happened. What they failed to understand was that this was no longer a family disagreement. This was a documented assault backed by evidence, official reports, and facts that could not be explained away. My name is Claire Mitchell, and this is the story of how the people who ignored me my entire life finally learned what happens when the truth comes with proof. From the outside, my family looked perfect. We lived in a beautiful neighborhood with neatly trimmed lawns, tasteful holiday decorations, and smiling family photographs hanging in every room. My mother, Linda, cared deeply about appearances. As long as everyone looked happy, she believed everything was fine. My stepfather, Robert, simply accepted whichever version of reality caused the least conflict. Then there was my stepbrother, Ethan, the unquestioned favorite. Every achievement of his became a family celebration. Every mistake he made came with endless excuses. Meanwhile, I slowly became invisible. I worked hard, stayed out of trouble, paid my own bills, and built a successful career, but none of it ever seemed to matter. One Christmas dinner, Ethan proudly announced another promotion. My mother nearly jumped from her chair with excitement, raising a toast as though he had accomplished something extraordinary. When everyone finally settled down, I mentioned that I had completed an advanced federal intelligence certification earned by only a small number of analysts. Robert barely looked up from his dinner. "That's nice, sweetheart," he said casually. "Sounds stable." Stable. I remember staring at him, wondering if he had the slightest idea what my job actually involved. He didn't. None of them did. They imagined I spent my days pushing paperwork behind a desk. They had no idea I analyzed sensitive intelligence, identified security threats, and supported operations that protected lives. Eventually, I stopped trying to explain. When people decide not to recognize your worth, no explanation is ever enough. The pattern continued for years. Ethan could show up 2 hours late smelling like alcohol, and everyone would laugh it off. If I arrived 10 minutes late because of work, my mother would lecture me about responsibility. The double standards became so normal that I nearly accepted them. Nearly. One summer evening during a backyard barbecue, Ethan entertained everyone with another story about his career. My mother laughed so hard she almost spilled her drink. Trying to join the conversation, I mentioned that my team had recently helped prevent a serious overseas threat. My mother rolled her eyes. "You always make everything sound so dramatic, Claire." Everyone laughed. I smiled politely, but inside something quietly broke. Not because they mocked me. Because they truly believed I was the problem. That night I sat alone outside while everyone else slept. The backyard was silent except for insects and distant traffic. For the first time, I realized something important. Keeping the peace and accepting disrespect were not the same thing. I had spent years confusing them. A few months later, everything changed. It happened shortly after 4 in the morning. I woke to the sound of breaking glass downstairs. At first I thought someone had broken into the house. Then I heard Ethan. His voice echoed through the kitchen, loud and slurred. When I walked downstairs, I found him standing near the counter with a whiskey bottle in his hand. The smell of alcohol filled the room. The moment he saw me, he started looking for an argument. "There she is," he sneered. "The government superhero." I sighed. "Go to bed, Ethan. You think you're better than everyone else. No. You act like you're smarter than all of us." I tried walking away. That only made him angrier. He started repeating things my mother had obviously said behind my back. That I was antisocial. That nobody enjoyed being around me. That I cared more about work than family. Every word sounded painfully familiar because they weren't really his opinions. They were hers. Then everything happened in seconds. I heard a drawer slide open. I turned around. Ethan was holding a screwdriver. The look in his eyes made my stomach tighten. "Put it down," I said. Instead, he stepped toward me. "You're always so dramatic." Then he lunged. A burst of pain exploded through my shoulder. The force knocked me backward onto the kitchen floor. I remember staring at the ceiling as blood spread across my shirt. The pain was unbearable. The shock was even worse. But what hurt the most was hearing my mother from the next room. Instead of helping me, she laughed nervously and acted as though I was exaggerating. Even then, she chose him. Lying there bleeding, something inside me finally broke. Not my spirit. My need for their approval. When I woke in the hospital, my shoulder was heavily bandaged. A few minutes later, my mother and stepfather walked into my room. The story they told was unbelievable. According to them, I had accidentally fallen onto a toolbox. Nobody had attacked me. Nobody was responsible. It was all just an unfortunate accident. Listening to them rewrite reality while I lay in a hospital bed was one of the strangest moments of my life. For years I had ignored small lies. This time, the lie involved blood, injuries, and a weapon.